June 1812, the banks of the Niemen River. Look at this army. It stretches as far as the eye can see. 685,000 men. It is the Grand Armée, the largest military force Europe has ever seen. It is a machine built for one purpose: conquest. At its head rides Napoleon Bonaparte, the master of war, a man who believes he is invincible. He looks at the map of Russia and sees a quick campaign, a few weeks, maybe one decisive battle. Then glory. But he is wrong. He isn't marching his men into a war. He is marching them into a graveyard. 6 months later, this magnificent army will not exist. Out of nearly 700,000 men who crossed this river, less than 40,000 will cross back. Where did they go? How do you lose 500,000 men without losing a single major battle? This isn't just a story about war. This is a story about hubris, about the terrifying power of nature, and about the moment when the most powerful man on earth met his match in the frozen hell of Russia. To understand the disaster, you have to understand the scale. Napoleon didn't just bring French soldiers, he brought Italians, Poles, Germans, Swiss. It was the army of nations. They had 150,000 horses, over 1,000 cannons. The logistics alone were a nightmare. Napoleon knew Russia was barren. He prepared supply trains. He thought of everything, except the summer. Yes, the summer. We always hear about General Winter, but the killing starts in the heat. June and July in Russia are suffocating. The roads are dirt tracks. As hundreds of thousands of feet trample them, they churn into choking clouds of dust. Men can't breathe. And then come the rains. The dust turns to deep, sucking mud. Wagons break wheels. Horses snap their legs. And the water? It's scarce. Soldiers drink from puddles in the road. Within 2 weeks, before they even see a Russian soldier, men start dropping, not from bullets, but from typhus and dysentery. Napoleon expects the Russians to stand and fight. That's how war works, right? You defend your border. But the Russians, led by Barclay de Tolly, do something unexpected. They run, they retreat. And as they retreat, they burn. Villages burned, crops torched, bridges destroyed. This is scorched earth. The French army marches into a wasteland. They are hungry, they are sick, they are losing 5,000 men a day to desertion and disease. Napoleon is frustrated. He wants his big battle. He keeps pushing deeper, chasing a ghost. He tells his generals, peace lies in Moscow. He is gambling everything on one roll of the dice. September 7th, 1812. 75 miles west of Moscow. Finally, the Russians stop running. They turn to fight at a place called Borodino. This becomes the single bloodiest day in the history of warfare up to that time. Imagine the noise, 700 cannons firing at point-blank range. It's not a battle, it's a meat grinder. The French launch wave after wave of attacks. The Russians, now under the old one-eyed General Kutuzov, hold the line with suicidal stubbornness. By afternoon, the field is a carpet of bodies. Napoleon's marshals beg him, "Sire, send in the Imperial Guard. Let us finish them." The Imperial Guard is his elite reserve, the best soldiers in the world. If he sends them in, He crushes the Russian army completely. But Napoleon hesitates. He looks at the carnage. He is thousands of miles from home. If he loses the guard, he loses his protection. "I will not destroy my guard," he says. The battle ends. The French hold the field. Technically, it's a victory, but at what cost? 30,000 French casualties, 45,000 Russians. And the Russian army? It isn't destroyed. It simply slips away into the forests. Napoleon has won the ground, but he hasn't won the war. September 14th. Napoleon rides up to the Sparrow Hills. Below him lies Moscow. The holy city, the golden domes glitter in the sun. He waits. He expects a delegation of nobles to come out, bowing, offering the keys to the city. He expects the Tsar to beg for peace. He waits. 1 hour, 2 hours, nothing. The city is silent. When the French cavalry rides in, they find the streets deserted. The houses are empty. Moscow is a ghost town. Napoleon takes up residence in the Kremlin. He sleeps in the Tsar's bed. He writes a letter to Alexander I. "My brother, the war is over." That night, the first fires start. At first, they think it's an accident, soldiers cooking food. But then fires start in the north, then the east. The wind picks up. The Russians haven't just abandoned their capital, they have set it on fire. For 4 days, Moscow burns. It is an ocean of flame. Napoleon watches from the Kremlin windows, his face pale. "What a people," he whispers. "They are Scythians. This is a war of extermination." He realizes the terrifying truth. The Tsar is not going to surrender. The Russians would rather burn their own history than submit.
Napoleon is stuck. He has no food. Winter is coming, and he is sitting in the ashes of a victory that means nothing. He lingers too long. He stays for 5 weeks, hoping for a letter that never comes. On October 19th, he finally gives the order: retreat. Before we follow the Grand Armée into the frozen abyss, I have a small request. Creating these documentaries takes weeks of research. If you want to support the channel and see more history unveiled, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It really helps us out. Now, the sky turns gray. November 6th, the first snowflakes fall. The temperature drops. 0, -10, -20. General Winter has arrived, and he is merciless. The roads turn to sheets of ice. The horses, which haven't been properly shod for winter, can't stand up. They slip, break their legs, and die. Without horses, the cannons are abandoned. Then the wagons. The food runs out. Now, the horror truly begins. Men are walking in summer uniforms. Their boots fall apart, so they wrap their feet in rags from the stolen tapestries of Moscow. Frostbite turns fingers and noses black. If a man sits down to rest, he never gets up. The snow buries him in minutes. The discipline of the Grand Armée evaporates. It becomes a mob of desperate ghosts. They fight over the carcasses of dead horses. They slice the flesh off the animals while they are still alive. And all the while, The Cossacks are there. The Russian cavalry on their small, shaggy ponies. They appear out of the mist, strike the flanks, spear the stragglers, and vanish. They are the wolves circling a dying beast. Napoleon is no longer the emperor. He walks with a birch stick. Wrapped in a fur coat, his face grim. He carries a bag of poison around his neck in case of capture.
Late November, the Berezina River. This is the end. The French are trapped. The river is wide, half frozen, filled with ice floes. The bridge has been destroyed. Behind them, the main Russian army is closing in. On the other bank, another Russian force is waiting. They are surrounded. Napoleon orders his engineers, General Eblé, and his pontooners to build bridges. There is no wood. They tear down a village. The water is freezing. It kills anyone who stays in it too long. General Eblé's men drink brandy to numb the pain and wade into the icy water up to their chests. They work in shifts. They build 2 trestle bridges. It is a miracle of engineering and sacrifice. Of the 400 engineers who went into that water, nearly all of them will die of hypothermia. The army begins to cross, but panic sets in. The bridges are narrow. Thousands of men, women, and camp followers rush them. People are crushed. They are pushed off into the freezing water. Then the Russian artillery starts firing. Cannonballs smash into the crowd on the bridges. Screams, chaos. It is a scene from hell. Napoleon crosses. The core of his army crosses, but thousands are left behind on the far bank. When the engineers finally burn the bridges to stop the Russian pursuit, the wails of those left behind haunt the survivors for the rest of their lives. By mid-December, the remnants stumble out of Russia. Marshal Ney, the bravest of the brave, is the last man to leave Russian soil. He fires a musket into the pursuing Cossacks, throws it into the river, and walks across the border. He finds a French outpost. His face is black with gunpowder, his beard matted with ice. "Who are you?" the officer asks. "I am the rear guard of the Grand Armée," Ney replies. "I am Marshal Ney." Let's look at the numbers again. 685,000 went in. About 100,000 were captured. Over 400,000 died. Of the main column under Napoleon's direct command, only about 10,000 soldiers remained fit for duty. The great army didn't just lose, it evaporated. In 1819, a French engineer named Charles Minard drew a map of this campaign. It shows a thick beige line going into Russia, shrinking as it reaches Moscow, and a thin black line coming back. It is considered the best statistical graphic ever drawn, but it is also a tombstone.
Every millimeter of that thinning black line represents thousands of fathers, sons, and brothers who froze to death in the white silence of the Russian winter. Napoleon survived. He raised a new army, but he was never the same. The aura of invincibility was gone. The ghosts of 1812 would follow him all the way to Waterloo. It serves as a brutal reminder to anyone who seeks absolute power. You can conquer nations, you can burn cities, but you cannot conquer nature, and you cannot outrun the consequences of your own ego. History has a way of freezing tyrants in their tracks. What do you think was Napoleon's biggest mistake? Was it invading Russia in the first place, or staying in Moscow too long? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to see how Napoleon's story finally ends, click here to watch our documentary on the Battle of Waterloo.